Hello everyone, and welcome to another video on the Science YouTube channel. Now, as you probably guessed by the title, we're going to be looking at the results from MIT today and talking a little bit about Stanford. But before we really get into that, I wanted to thank you guys for the support that I've gotten over the past couple days. I posted the link to my channel and the last video that I made on a Science Discord server, and I could not have guessed how many people were interested in clicking on my MIT predictions and seeing my opinions and what I thought was going to happen. So again, a huge thank you to everyone who clicked on that video and who subscribed. I've almost doubled my subscriber count in the past couple days, and my views have like tripled. And at least a couple people who clicked on the MIT video went to check out some of my other videos because the views of those shot way up as well. So again, just thank you so much for all the support that I've been getting over the past couple days. It really means a lot to me. Thanks. And without further ado, I want to get into this video because this is a video that I've been excited to make ever since I started this YouTube channel at the beginning of the month. And it is my MIT analysis. Results from MIT are out. MIT came out. MIT was yesterday. And I had the opportunity to watch the live stream of the awards ceremony. Pretty interesting. I'll show you my much more colorful MIT slide in a little bit. But I want to quickly get this invitational out of the way. This was Stanford. This happened on the same day as MIT yesterday. I mean, it really got overshadowed, I think, by MIT. You can see a lot of really competitive teams went to MIT, of course. And at Stanford, we really only had two. But this matchup does tell us one thing, at least. It tells us that Castro Valley is probably just a little bit better than Monte Vista right now. They very likely went unstacked. These scores are not that far apart in terms of, how teams stack and unstack themselves. So when you super score them, they are ahead a little bit of Monte Vista by a little bit. So, and I did correct the rankings here. I think Monte Vista is still just a little bit ahead of them in California. Again, neither of these teams at this rate will go to nationals because Troy and Mountain View are taking those two spots for the two California state tournaments. But this matchup is very, very close right now. The only reason I did not put Castro Valley ahead of Monte Vista is because Monte Vista has shown that they are able to beat Castro Valley fairly recently. Yes, here. This might have been Castro Valley's like B team or something. Or they might have actually sent another team to this that I didn't include on here. I'll need to check that again. But yeah, Monte Vista has shown throughout the season that they're very strong. And I'm hesitant to rank Castro Valley ahead of Monte Vista because of this one localized win. They're not ahead by too much. This is a 10-point gap. Not the smallest gap, but definitely not insurmountable for Monte Vista. But yeah, I think, whoops. I think that spoiled a little bit of the rest of the video, but we'll get to that eventually. I think that Monte Vista is ever so slightly ahead of Castro Valley. Again, not that it really matters since Troy and Mountain View are the two teams on track for nationals from California right now. But I just thought I would mention Stanford since it happens this past weekend as well, and I know some of my California viewers would be upset if I didn't. And real quickly, I also wanted to mention one more thing. I finally have access to results from Northmount and from Capital Area. I did not add Capital Area on here yet for two reasons. One, it would be really annoying and take a long time, and I wanted to make this MIT analysis video as quickly as possible. And two, honestly, MIT kind of irrelevates, is that a word? I don't know. Makes irrelevant the results from uh, capital area. So, because really the only team that attended that was Syosset, and as you can see, and they did good. I think they got first at capital area, but they bombed quite a few events, and they didn't do as well as they had in previous tournaments. But I mean, as you can see at MIT, they did amazingly. We'll be getting into that in just a few seconds after I talk about Northmount here. So this one I did add on here. You can see I don't have it color coded quite yet, but Mason and Solon were, of course, the two big teams that attended this. They both went unstacked. So when you super score them, Solon is just a little bit ahead of Mason. This matchup is very close, much closer than I expected. I don't think with MIT overshadowing everything right now, I don't think that changes this matchup too much, but this is a lot closer than I expected. And now, for a bit more context to everything I just said, let's finally get into analyzing MIT. So there is a lot to unpack here. A lot of really competitive teams went here, and I'm going to try my best to not split this into two parts and make it under 30 minutes. So let's get into this here. So again, real basic surface level. I'm not going to read off these teams. You can see, where all these teams placed. You can pause the video if you want and take a closer look at some of these. But our top three teams were Troy, Seven Lakes, and Syosset. Now, I'm going to go over here and show you this slide is a lot more colorful than it was when you last saw it. And that's because as I was watching the award ceremony, I was marking this up, and some events that I missed, I marked up afterwards after the results came out. A yellow indicates that that team medaled in that event, but not in the place that I predicted they would. And green indicates I got it spot on. So you can see in terms of events rank, in terms of event predictions, I wasn't too much more accurate than I was at SOAPs. In fact, if you just account for, things that I got spot on, like I did when I, looked at my predictions from SOAPs and compared to them to the real results, I was actually less accurate. But I think a more fair way to do it is to say, okay, this team did well in this event, but not in the way that I expected, or they didn't get the rank that I expected. Exactly the rank I expected. Maybe they were one or two places off. So that's what the yellow indicates. And there's a decent bit of yellow. I still missed quite a few of this. So again, my prediction's not the most accurate thing. But I think a little more accurate than SOAPs. And looking at my overall rankings, these were actually a lot more accurate than I thought they would be. A similar rating system here, green indicates that I got their rank within plus or minus 2. So for example, Seven Lakes got second at the tournament here. I predicted they would get fourth. So I gave myself, a green there since I got it within plus or minus 2. Yellow was plus or minus 6. So Mountain View ended up getting fourth. I had them in first, so that was minus 3, again bigger than 2, and within that yellow range. So I classified them as yellow. And then red was anything worse than that. So red was, I was way off. So I have how many is that? 5. I have 5 teams here that I have in the red. And I think a good place to start is by going through that. So let's start with these teams that I was just way off with. Let's start with Marquette. So Marquette, I expected Marquette to do really, really well here. If you remember correctly, I even moved them up like ahead of Jordan. I might have even had them behind Montgomery, and I moved them up because I was ranking them so high in a lot of these events. And as you can see, almost none of these came through. The only one that was astronomy. And if we look, by the way, at the actual tournament, Marquette got 22nd. And I predicted they would get, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I predicted they'd get 6th. So, yeah, pretty inaccurate there. Astronomy, they got 5th, and I predicted they would get 2nd. But yeah, I mean, just looking through here, at these. Third in forensics, and then the fifth in astronomy. Seventh in towers is pretty good, but other than that, not too much to write home about. Fermi questions, that's pretty good. 10th place at MIT is pretty good, and I'm defining, because I'm going to be talking about bombs in a little bit. At this tournament, I'm going to define a bomb as 20th place or lower. For a competitive team. For a non-competitive team, a bomb at this tournament would probably be like 30th or 40th place or lower. But for competitive teams, anything with 20th place or lower is going to be a bomb. So going through here, you can see quite a few events that I would classify as bombs for Marquette. Anatomy, 23rd. What is this event? That's 30th. Chem Lab, Codebusters. What is this? Disease Detectives, Dynamic Planet, Ecology. Look at this, 60th in Ecology. And I looked, so I think there were 72 teams that participated in Ecology. So this is, 12th from last place. That's not exactly where you want to be if you want to be competitive on the highest level. 26th in, I'm going to move my thing because it's really getting in the way right now. 26th in flight, 28th in forestry. I'm not going to, 42nd in optics, 48th in robot tour. I could go on here. There's a lot of bombs. Witty, again, competitive teams very often bomb Witty. Not too surprising there. And I mean, yeah, if you look up here, look at how few of these top ranked teams medaled in Witty. Like, it's Witty syndrome strikes again, strong and rampant at MIT here. But yeah, I mean, just overall, not nearly as good as I expected. In fact, I didn't even have them ranked in forensics, I don't think. And that was their best event here. Yeah, I didn't even rank them in forensics, and that was their best event. So, yeah, definitely a little worse than well, not a little worse, a lot worse than I expected from Marquette. I don't want to try and sugarcoat anything here. Not a great performance. Next, let's go to Jordan. So I predicted Jordan would get, what is that, 8th, I think? And they ended up getting 12th. So not quite as bad. Actually, that's within 4. I don't know why I had them as red, so I'll classify them as yellow, actually. We'll talk about them since I started talking about them anyway. So yeah, not quite as bad as Marquette or Cumberland Valley. We'll get to them in a little bit. But yeah, certainly not where I expected them to be. And here is one of the things that really, really surprised me. Anatomy. Jordan did not even medal in anatomy. They got 10th, which is pretty good, again, at MIT. But considering, well, first of all, considering that Seven Lakes, their in-state rival, who they've beaten in anatomy at every single tournament they've attended, got first. And again, if we just look here for Jordan, come on, at their record in anatomy, first, beating both of Seven Lakes teams at University of Texas. First, again, beating both of, well, Seven Lakes might have only sent one team here. They might have sent another that I didn't include. But again, beating Seven Lakes in anatomy at Cypress Falls. And then Highlands, outdated, but again, first in anatomy against very competitive teams. So the fact that they did not do very well in anatomy here and did not beat Seven Lakes indicates one of two things to me. Either Seven Lakes really, really has studied anatomy specifically probably to beat Jordan. They're tired of Jordan beating them in anatomy. They want to be first in anatomy in Texas. So they've either really grinded anatomy or the anatomy test was just a little weird. Either of those is possible. I tend to give tournaments the benefit of the doubt when it comes to test quality. Most tournaments have at least decent tests in most events, and that is a very broad generalization. There are, of course, a lot of exceptions to that. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that the anatomy test was weird. I've never done anatomy, so even when they release tests, I'm not going to be able to look at it and say, yeah, that's a bad test. I will, however, be able to do that for ecology. In my time in Science Olympiad, I was an environmental science person. I did water quality and then green generation after that, and forestry and ornithology as well. So This is my jam right here, ecology, and that is a nice segue into our next team that I way overestimated, Cumberland Valley, my home team. I probably had a little bias when I ranked them so high in things, but again, I think in a couple of these events, I was decently fair. Like Codebusters, maybe not, really expecting first, but I at least expected them to medal. Anatomy, again, I at least expected maybe top 10. Detector building, I expected top 10. XD, top 10. Fermi questions, top 10. That one might have actually been top 10. I think they get seventh in Fermi. I think so. Yes, they did. I need to move my thing again because I'm going to be looking at events. Robot Tour. Again, this was a bit of a wild card. Things did not go in CV's favor here. This, I think, was actually their second worst event at this tournament. And then Tower. I think they did pretty well in Tower, though. They got 13th? Yeah, 13th in Tower. That's pretty decent at MIT. And Wind Power. Again, this is an event that they're traditionally good at that just did not work out for them. But really, the biggest bombs here for both Marquette and Cumberland Valley is ecology. I mean, this is actually honestly kind of unbelievable. I mean, I don't want to sugarcoat this. This is really bad. Like, for Cumberland Valley, ecology has not been a very good event this year for them. If we just look, 13th at Soaps. I didn't want to do that. 14th and 11th at Battle at Valley Forge. 12th and 7th. This is probably their best showing in ecology this year. It's, it's fine. It's actually pretty decent at Dick Smith, but that was their earliest tournament that they attended. Unless you count Highlands, which I do not. Just an absolute total bomb here in ecology for, again, both CV and Marquette. So I'm really curious to look at Acton Boxborough. What is their other team? Okay, 17th. That's decent. Mason, 39th in ecology. Troy, 19th in ecology. Not quite a bomb, but not really where you want to be. New Trier, what is that? 28th in ecology. Sorry, my brain just didn't work there for a second. Montgomery, 33rd in ecology. Like, these are really, really, really bad for some of these competitive teams. So I'm curious to look at the ecology test when the tests come out. And I'm going to take it without notes, with no partner. I'll probably have a calculator. But I want to see how I do. Just me, no notes, no partner, same time limit, 50 minutes. And I want to see if this test was weird. I want to see what was up with this event. Because, if these are legit, if this was a legit test and these rankings are legit for these two teams, then that is a absolutely horrendous indicator for both of these teams. Just looking at some of these other events, like Anatomy, 41st, and ChemLab, 45th. Again, CV beat Mason in all of Mason's teams in ChemLab here at Soaps. Mason got 4th, 5th, and they got 4th, 13th, and 17th. They beat all of Mason's teams in ChemLab at Soaps, and here, Mason gets 5th and CV gets squat. Codebusters, again, this ranking isn't terrible. 14th is fine, pretty decent at MIT, but I just realized I didn't plug my computer in. Let me do that. Again, nowhere near the top 5 that I was expecting for them. Detector building, again, 20th. We're starting to get into the bomb range, but not their worst event. Certainly not. Fermi's pretty good. XD's pretty good. Flight. This was their one saving grace here. They did really, really well in flight. And honestly, if you look at at their other tournaments in flight. Flight's been one of their worst events. Like, I mean, ninth at Soaps, not absolutely terrible, but certainly not really where you want to be. 15th and 11th at Battle, and then 8th and ninth at Dick Smith. So 5th in Flight is extremely good for them. But I mean, a lot of this other, like Robot Tour again, and Witty, actually, they did pretty decent in Witty. They did not have Witty syndrome this tournament. But again, wind power, like a lot. I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but really not a very good showing for CV. Next, we're starting to run out of time, and I haven't even started talking about the teams that did well. So let's speed this up here. Westminster Plainsboro, I predicted they would get, I don't even know, like 12th, 13th, something like that. And they did significantly better, actually. So some positives here. They did a lot better than I expected. This puts them ahead of Montgomery, of course. They directly beat Montgomery. Both of these teams were stacked to the best of my knowledge. So they are back on top in New Jersey. So that's good for them. Ward Melville. So this was a team. This team did significantly worse than I expected. They got 25th. I was expecting they'd get, what is that, like 14th or something. Yeah, I mean, again, some of the same problems, just bombing some of these events. 56th in Anatomy, 39th in Detector, 34th in XD, 40th in Robot Tour. Robot Tour, again, a very difficult event, it seems like, at this tournament. And Witty, on again, not even their worst showing. Like this, I'd classify this as a bomb barely, but like again, compared to some of their other events here, they did significantly better. Yeah, so those were all the teams that did worse. Now let's talk about some teams that did pretty good. So I'm going to finally show you this officially. So this is my newest, I should say, ranking of teams nationally. You have Troy in first. I was debating keeping Solon in first, but really what made me think Troy is ahead of Solon at this point is this gap. Look at this gap between Troy and Seven Lakes. I mean, that is a really big gap. And an excellent showing for Troy. And really, I mean, if you scroll across here and look, Troy medaled, and they medaled in quite a few events. I think I calculated it earlier, about half of the events they medaled in. But really what set them apart was fewer bombs. I mean, if you look at this, these were really their only two bombs. I think Eco was, again, ecology, pretty close. I really want to take a look at that Eco test to figure out what was going on. But I can't see Witty. 30th. Okay, yeah. So they had some Witty syndrome there. But again, pretty a very strong showing from Troy. And I'd barely put them ahead of Solon right now. Solon's tournament can change that. Solon doesn't give themselves medals at their own tournament, but they do take their own tests, and you can see where they would have placed in them after the tournament. So I'll be able to assess how good Solon is, especially against Mason and Cumberland Valley. And maybe Stevenson and New Trier, they might be going as well. I can check this, actually. I can check this, yes. DuPont's going as well. I don't think we have any data on them. Marquette is going. Yep, that's how you spell Marquette. Yes, New Trier, Seven Lakes. Wow, Seven Lakes is going to Solon. And again, not sure if this is California or Michigan, Troy, that's going. Should be interesting, though. So back over here, yes, Seven Lakes. Again, Seven Lakes doing extremely well, getting... Oh, I was like, why is Seven Lakes in first? That was micro mission. Seven Lakes taking second to Troy. Again, a really big gap here, but second at MIT. I mean, that is just fantastic. I'm going to move this over here, actually. No, stop. I want you there. Thank you. Yeah, so again, really strong showing from Seven Lakes. I'm not quite putting them ahead of Solon, but again, at Solon's tournament, these two teams should be going head-to-head. So we'll see how that works out. Acton Boxborough. This was a team that I knew was going to do well, but I didn't know quite how well. I italicized them. We didn't have any data for them up to this point. And it looks like they were unstacked, by the way. They had 11th and 17th with team scores that are actually not too far apart considering that big gap in placement. But when you super score them, they are ahead of Syosset just barely. I mean, this is basically a dead heat right now. 1 point of difference is not is minuscule, honestly. Almost disregardably so. But for all intents and purposes, this is a tie right now. Syosset and Acton Boxborough, both amazing teams. And speaking of which, Syosset. I mean, I predicted that they would do well. I predicted they'd do better than a lot of other predictions that I looked at had them. But even I didn't think that they would do this amazingly. If you remember correctly, I actually did end up moving them up, and even that wasn't enough. Mason was really the one that fell below here, and Mountain View as well. No, that's not what I want to do. But yeah, I mean, Syosset just doing amazingly in quite a few of the events I expected them to, and then some events that I didn't even expect them to, like Whitty. They avoided Whitty syndrome. They got 7th here. They did have some bombs, of course. I honestly don't think any team didn't have bombs. Every team had bombs is a better way to say that. Yeah, that's really how they were able to rise the ranks here. They're really good at some events, really not good at some other ones, but ultimately their strengths outweigh their weaknesses, and they were able to really rise up here. And I have them significantly higher than Mountain View, of course. You can see they beat them. That's a pretty big gap there. Yeah, they beat them by a decent bit. Mountain View and Mason, by the way. I saw this last night, but I don't think I realized how important this was. They tied at this tournament. I mean, this is literally a dead heat right now. They are tied, so this really could go either way. So, I mean, yeah, just know that even though it looks like Mountain View's ahead of Mason here, this is really a tie. And Westminster Plainsboro, again, I knew that MIT was going to shake things up here. Honestly, though, it didn't shake it up quite as much as I expected. I am running out of time here. I think I've covered pretty much everything that I want to. You can look at this. I just kind of divided up the teams into teams. So, okay, some definitions here. In this case, winner and loser means winner means improved their position nationally. Loser means what's the opposite of improve? Lost, I guess, their place nationally. Their place nationally has fallen, and no change is no change. I do want to talk about Stevenson and Nutria real quick, and Harriton as well. God, I'm running out of time. So Westminster Plainsboro doing pretty well. Very well, sorry. 6th place, nothing to laugh at. Harriton, significantly better than I expected. Obviously, this puts them ahead of CV in the race for PA Nats. I am keeping CV ahead of Lower Merion just barely, even though they really bombed this tournament. I think that, again, I think they're super scoring at Soaps here, being 10 points ahead of super scored Lower Merion. And again, consistently, they were, when I super scored them at Battle, they were ahead by a little bit. So I think I am keeping them ahead of Lower Merion ever so slightly, but that race really has tightened up here. And Harriton, again, definitely ahead of PA in the race for PA Nats right now. Now, in pursuit, I am keeping Stevenson and Nutrier. Now, these two teams, something has come to my attention. They've attended a bunch of Wisconsin tournaments, and Wisconsin is weird because they have events that are not in the national event registry that they add into their team score. And these two Illinois teams refuse to participate in those. So that's why they did so poorly at a lot of those. So they are a little better than I expected, or than I predicted they'd be. But honestly, not by too much. Still, I mean, you can see Nutrier 9th and Stevenson 13th. Again, really not great for the former national champion. I'm really running out of time here. You can pause the video and check out these in more detail if you want. Again, just keep my definitions in mind. But thank you so much for watching. Again, thank you so much for the support on my channel over the past couple days.